it's a group of women that were the founding signatories that brought the declaration together, and we really thought that it would be interesting for you to hear the story up front of what prompted them to bring it together and why. Okay, so I'm going to move first of all to Imogen. Imogen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Brilliant. All right, I'm going to give you a quick intro. Imogen, you have been a Green Party member, I think, since 2015. You've spent 8.5 years as a dedicated elected representative of your community, and you're now in your third term of office. I hope that's correct. You can give me a nod if it is, yeah. And I would be very happy to say that you've also been a feminist and a peace campaigner for all of your adult life. So thank you for all of those contributions to society, and I'd love to pass over to you and to hear what it is that you have to tell us and everybody else here about Green Women's Declaration. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. And when we are talking about my adult life, that is actually quite a few years now. So I just kind of thought back on that and thought, yeah, crikey. So never mind, let's get on with this.
So why do we need a Green Women's Declaration? Well, first of all, let me tell you how this piece of work came about. I'm immensely proud to have been a part of it. We spent hours discussing, considering, listening to each other. We created this incredibly powerful document. It is a mistress class of feminist endeavour. We put our hearts and souls into it, and I recommend you to have a good read and sign it if it resonates with you in any way. So, why do we need a declaration of sex-based rights? Across the world, hundreds and thousands of women have signed similar documents. We wanted to stand shoulder to shoulder with those women from the mighty Women's Declaration International, which has over 180,000 signatories from 35 countries. Why is it that women across the world are queuing up to sign declarations about their sex-based rights? Because we believe that it is our right to use the language that best describes our experience and our physiology. Because it is our right to choose who and where and when we meet, and because it is our right to determine how we respond politically to events that affect us. We made a declaration of what our sex-based rights are, and you can read them on the website. So why a Green Women's Declaration? Many of us are active members of the Green Party. Some are former members. Some of us have thought about joining or rejoining the Green Party of England and Wales and have retreated from it. Our declaration has an environmental focus. We know the strongest and most effective actions governments can take to avert environmental damage and the economic crisis that will follow it is to support women, to give us reproductive autonomy and education. Women and girls are on the front line of environmental collapse. Where there is famine and chaos, it's women who struggle to hold communities together. The highest number of casualties in extreme weather conditions are women, children, and the elderly. In the conflict that often follows, of the civilians killed, injured, and displaced, most will be women. In war, women and girls suffer disproportionately. Our bodies are weaponized as human shields, and through rape as methods of genocide and control. The Green Party has an opportunity to stand up and say loudly and clearly what the United Nations says about women, which is that globally, if women have education and reproductive rights, their actions within their communities as small traders, employers, as heads of family, as businesswomen, teachers, mothers, grandmothers, women will be more effective than almost anything else in reversing the devastating impact of climate and economic disaster on their communities. We've got a lot of work to do. My suggestion is that we amplify the voices of women and girls here and across the world, to strengthen our voices, for all of us to work towards a greater enablement and protection of women and girls worldwide. Those things are key to tackling the community impacts of environmental disaster. I used to be proud of the Green Party when it was seen as the party of science and technology, using evidence-based solutions to environmental challenges. But how is it possible to campaign against the use of growth hormones and antibiotics in farm animals when the party endorses the use of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in adolescent and young humans? How can we make evidence-based policies when we support the recording of data relating to transgender people as their preferred gender instead of their sex? But this is the wrong us and them. Gender critical people against trans rights allies is the wrong fight. It's us against the oil industry. It's us against the motorists lobby. It's us against companies who will extract every gram of mineral from the earth. It's us against those who poison the soil with chemicals and let the runoff drain into the rivers and poison the fish and the seas. It's us against them, not you and me against her and her. I'm not going to go down the angry road this evening. I spend quite a lot of time in angry land. It is a really bad time to be a woman at the moment. If you are a victim of sexual abuse and you live in London, when you finally get the strength to call for help, you have a 5% chance of opening your front door to another abuser in a police uniform. Rape is almost decriminalised in this country. Extreme sexual practices like anal sex and choking are being normalised to young people by their exposure to hardcore pornography. If you're not angry about this and other examples of the war on women, then you've not been paying attention. I am really disappointed that the Green Party of England and Wales has no section within its rights and responsibilities specifically dedicated to women, although we are at least half the membership. And yet, there are over 600 words describing the Green Party's aspirations for the rights of trans people. Current policy of GPEW is that we can disagree with anything by first stating the policy we disagree with. For instance, the Rights and Responsibilities 530 states the Green Party recognises that there are many gender identities that are within and outside of the traditional gender binary of man and woman. The Green Party recognises that trans men are men, trans women are women, and that non-binary identities exist and are valid. We shall respect transgender and non-binary people's identities as real. The Green Party shall include and push for further acceptance of transgender and non-binary people within all areas of society. However, it is permitted to disagree. Recently, the debate has become polarised, so much that the Green Party Regional Council, the body that is responsible for looking after the well-being of the party, requested a legal document to be produced by the Green Party's legal team. It's called Guidance on the Equality Act 2010, Gender Reassignment and Gender Critical Beliefs. And it is to provide guidance on, among other things, how to approach complaints or disputes concerning gender critical members and transgender members. The Equality Act defines 9 characteristics that must be protected against discrimination and harassment. The 2 that we focus on are sex and gender reassignment. Please take note here that gender identity, or simply gender, are not, repeat, not protected characteristics. The guidance helpfully defines sex and gender identity. Under the Equality Act, sex is understood as binary, being a man or a woman, and man is defined as a male of any age, and woman is defined as a female of any age. Our Code of Conduct is the benchmark of how we should conduct ourselves as members of the Green Party. It describes in detail the ways in which, as members of the same party, we should always try to believe the best of each other. It says, the Green Party welcomes people from a wide range of backgrounds. Members may encounter people who hold differing political or philosophical worldviews. Freedom of belief and the right to change that belief is a fundamental human right. Members should therefore show tolerance and respect towards people that hold political or philosophical worldviews that differ from their own. The sad case is that many members of the Green Party who have gender-critical beliefs have been given no-fault suspensions. Some have been expelled. With the help of the legal guidance document, you can see that this behaviour is unlawful discrimination, even harassment, against a person with a protected belief. You may not know this, but there are individuals who are taking the Green Party to court to declare their right to not be discriminated against because of their gender-critical beliefs. The first case has started. It is being contested by the Green Party. That means the Green Party is paying for its own lawyers to stand up in court and protect it from this claim. And if it loses, which seems likely, the Green Party will be liable to pay out more in costs and claims. This is money that comes from subscriptions, money that has been raised through fundraising, from generous people who make donations. That money is given to the Green Party because people are concerned about the environmental crisis. Most people in the country, most of the members of the Green Party, are not invested in the controversy. It is probably fair to say that most people who have subscribed, donated, contributed to fundraisers are not doing so because their primary concern is trans rights. It is a huge distraction. On the one hand, we are faced with catastrophic disruptions in our environment through climate change and biodiversity loss. This is our primary focus. On the other hand, 51% of the world's population are women whose rights to privacy, safety, and dignity are being eroded, and the powerful contribution we can make to community cohesion is being ignored and diminished. I have just come back from 5 days in Glasgow, where I went to the fantastic Philia Conference, which is the largest women's liberation conference in Europe, possibly in the world. I am full to the brim with sisterhood, solidarity, and the immensity of what women can do together. We know how to support one another. We know how to act, how to be strong and make change. This is what I want the Green Party to know about Green Party women. We are women. We have some answers. Listen to us. Thank you.
Wow, Imogen, that was incredible, incredibly moving. Thank you so much. Really, really powerful words from you there. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sarah. She's going to be talking from a personal perspective about Women's Declaration. Just to give you a little bit of background info on Sarah, Sarah May has been a Green Party supporter for many years. She was initially involved in things like the Green Festival scene, so Green Futures at Glastonbury Festival, Green Gatherings, and smaller green festivals across the country. She then put her money where her mouth is, so to speak, and became a formal member of the party, and that was during the Green Surge when many of us joined the party. She is a conscientious local party officer for Shrewsbury and Aitcham, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome you here this evening. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you, Zoe. Thanks for having me along. Yes, well, I first got involved with the Green Party right back was when I had my first tax bill, and I saw how much money the government were taking off me, and I thought, I'm going to get political. So I love trees, etc. So it was obviously going to be the Green Party. So from then, which, was probably when I was 18 onwards, I have always supported the Green Party in the background. And of course, as you said, did the Green Festivals, and then after the Green Surge, got more involved with the local party. So, and it's the local party where my next great politicalisation started to happen. A friend in the local Facebook was questioning our local Green councillor about Amy Challoner and what was going on there, and it was the first I'd heard of it. And I was a Green Party member, and I heard about it, and I'm finding out about this thing on Facebook. I was horrified, and the more I looked at it and the more I found out, the more horrified I became. I was ashamed of the Green Party of England and Wales, and I had recommended this party to my children. I really cannot tell you. But I had a lot of friends in the Green Party, and what to do. So, there's a lot of things, isn't it? Because the Challoners were in Coventry, which is in West Midlands, which is the region I'm in. So I'm thinking, so this has happened on my doorstep. And what to do? So the only thing to do is to find out how this party's working and find out more about how this party's working. And I wish more local members like I was would find out more about how this party is working, because I went to conference. Conference was an eye-opener. At conference, I got to learn, because I've been to a few now, I'm learning how the party works. And I could see at conference the people who were working the party and their methodology. And the way that they treated the elders of our party. I mean, these are people who have given a lot of their life to the formation of the Green Party, because it's only 50 years, and a lot of people have put in the miles, and the carpet was being ripped out from under their feet in such a rude way. The things I saw happen, I just couldn't have believed it. It's not the party that I signed up to. And I want this party I signed up to, and my friends and colleagues signed up to, I want that back again, for us again. And that's for everyone, all of us. So last year, I went to Filia. I was filled with how much work we've got to do globally. All of us together have got so much cleaning up to do, because it's mad bad out there. So we've got all this to do, and we had a meeting. After all this COVID and all the isolation and all the Zooms, I actually met some Green Party women, really live. It was so exciting, but we had a meeting there, and the meeting was, what are we going to do? And we're going to have to do something like the Green Women's Declaration. And we were all like, we're going to have to do something, because we need our party back. We came back and we got together, it was Zooming again, but, Zoom. Well, about 20 of us came together, not everyone who'd been at Filia, but, and worked really hard over several months to building up the draft and, revision, and it was great. Brilliant conversations. These are all Green Party women. It was not just from them, it was from people they spoke to. It was a wide network we fed into this. We're very indebted to the Labour's declaration for their time and knowledge, because they were very helpful at the beginning. They came and explained to us how things had gone with them, which was great. I think this is the first time I've worked, and I was just a minor player in this, but with such an amazing team of women. I mean, the strength, my whole life has changed since, not so much since I joined the Green Party of England and Wales, but since I joined Green Party Women. I mean, book clubs, twitching, whatever, but also the solidarity, the sisterhood, and the reasonableness of people, and the open-heartedness and the ability that we can sort of meet together and discuss things and feel safe. It's so refreshing and nice, because there are other places where we can feel very attacked. And I mean, the Green Women's Declaration grew out of the Green Party of England and Wales via Green Party women, but it is separate. And it's going to be good to have open conversations with people about the whole issues we're facing of women's interests being put to the side, of women being dismissed, because we've had this since forever. The women's voice in the room, that one where you sat in the room and you say something and nobody hears it until the bloke next to you says it, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's gone on for all of my adult life. And you'd think by now, in this century, we'd have a change, but things have gone terribly wrong. But I can't go into that very much. And thank you so much for letting me come on here tonight and talk to you all. And thank you. And I hope you will sign the declaration and help us move things forward in a really positive way.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I'm going to move now to the question and answer section of the meeting. We've got about half an hour. Now, people were invited to email in advance, and sadly, I think many of you will be aware, I have been put on a no-fault suspension, which I 100% contest. Also, there have been other things experienced by other members of the Green Party Women Committee, which means that they can no longer access their email. So when you guys, many of you emailed in questions, we haven't been able to access those questions. I leave it for you to draw your own conclusions about whether there was any intention to disrupt this meeting and to disrupt our ability to meet your curiosity and your interest around the Green Women's Declaration. But certainly there has been a direct consequence that this meeting has been somewhat disrupted, although we have, I feel, overcome that. So without further ado, as I say, I am going to move to a question. And the first question is one that has been emailed to our secretary since she lost contact with the original emails that were sent in. So the question is, why are trans women not included in the definition? And there's another question as well that expands on that. It says, I've read the declaration and need some clarification. Nowhere does it talk about trans women. Can you please clarify if you believe that trans women are women? And if yes, do you believe that trans women should be then included in the declaration so that there is no ambiguity about what you mean? Imogen, would you like to have a go answering that?
Okay. Yes, I can have a go at that. I agree. We don't want ambiguity. Why are trans women not included in the definition? Trans women are men. There is no ambiguity. That's the answer.
That was succinct and to the point. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Where does the Green Women's Declaration stand on transmasculine people? So I'm going to just sort of preface this by just clarifying again that you're not actually speaking for everybody who's a signatory of Green Women's Declaration. You're speaking as a founding signatory of Green Women's Declaration, and so your answer will be in that context. Thanks, Imogen. We'll go over to you, and then I'll open the floor to either Sarah or Emma if they want to expand.
Thank you. Just as trans women are men, trans men are women. They may suffer similar medical problems as a result of their physiology to those of us who call ourselves women. Menstrual problems, fibroids, endometriosis, gynecological, hormonal issues, female cancers. Trans men may also have lived experience of harassment and discrimination, abuse and violence because of their former place in society as girls and women. Some trans men may be lesbian and have chosen the transgender route because of societal homophobia. Some trans men may be beginning to experience regret and need a community where they are welcomed. The Green Women's Declaration welcomes trans men, but it's also important to say that anyone can sign the declaration, anyone at all, trans men, trans women, and anyone who calls themselves simply man or woman. And we have some of everybody in our signatory, over 1,000 signatories now.
Thanks, Imogen. Emma or Sarah, do you want to add anything to that? Emma?
I was just going to say, I think that's fine. And sometimes people say like, oh, well, what are you going to do if a woman comes in the toilet if she's got a beard or something like that? Because there are, obviously, we know these powerful hormones do change appearance drastically. But, you know, most of the time we know these women, we know these girls, and they're going to need that community in time to come, especially with these detransitioners, and we will welcome them. They're female, they're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. That community and that sense of solidarity is always important amongst females. I would now like to move on to another question which came in, and Sue has clarified in the meeting chat that if questions were sent to her personal secretary email, then we were able to capture them. It was only the email questions that were sent specifically to women@greenparty.org.uk that we have been prevented from accessing. So, and that's the official party email that has now been blocked to members of Green Party Women. So here's the question that we received. In the 2023 census, the numbers of transgender Muslims in Newham and Brent were implausibly high. This is the words of the question. And respondents with English as a second language were 5 times more likely to identify as transgender than on average. The Green Women's Declaration states that sex-based language is vital in identifying and calling out oppression. Do you, as representatives of Green Women's Declaration, do you agree that it is also vital that we have accurate data collection on sex and gender? Because the erosion of both language and meaningful data makes it impossible to track what is happening to women.
It needs to be sex-based, to do with health, because female bodies work differently to male bodies, just as standard without any external influence. And also it's very important in crime stats as well.
Brilliant. Did anybody else want to add anything to that?
Well, I wanted to just point out the great opportunity that was lost in the way the question was framed in the 2021 census. There was an opportunity to really discover how many transgender people there are in the country, which would have been of significant benefit in terms of allocating funding, services, and so on. The opportunity was fudged because the way the question was asked and clear data was not obtained. So not only does that impact on the services for women and girls, but that also significantly impacts on services for transgender people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's vital for so many different reasons. I've just got a point of correction here. There was actually no census in 2023. Somebody posted in that they've said that the last one was in 2021. So thanks for making that comment. Okay. So, because there are fewer lesbians than heterosexual women, it has been reported that lesbians are more likely than heterosexual women to find their partners via a dating app or lesbian-only event. Jenny Watson runs lesbian-only events. Up until this year, these events were open to trans women. However, she made them female-only after trans women proved to be problematic by behaving inappropriately. This questioner says, the presence of males changed the atmosphere of events. It is widely accepted that gay culture is a specific subculture and that gay clubs and spaces were important. Would you like to speak to this issue?
Well, I'm completely aware of this. Lesbian culture is already under threat. There is a trend to portray strong women and lesbian figures of the past as being trans men, like Anne Lister, Joan of Arc. It's incredibly insulting. Almost as if if you stand up for yourself and you hold a flag for your community, you can't actually be a real woman. Lesbian culture is incredibly important for young, same-sex attracted and gender-questioning women as they grow up, looking for direction and inspiration. Having strong lesbian role models is very healthy, very important. The other part of this that I feel really aligned to is how lesbian culture is vital to the strength and resilience of all women. And within the women's movement, the presence of lesbian groups and lesbian activity, culture, whatever you want to call it, is wonderful and enhancing to our community and should be protected.
Thank you. There's a question here. How can women put pressure on the Met and police generally to enforce and uphold women's rights and women's interests? Is there anything that anybody wants to speak to about that? Sarah, thank you.
Yes, there is. I mean, here in West Mercia, a group of women have actually been to see the Pop Dog, I can't remember what they're called. But anyway, a group of us went there because we wanted to be an independent advisory group in the first instance for violence against women and girls, because that's what they were asking for. But we felt that they did ask a lot of other people, other groups to come in, but we didn't feel that we were doing the same thing for women. So we have actually been there and had several meetings on that, and it's making good progress, actually.
Thank you. There is a general question. Why does the Green Women's Declaration hate trans people? And that's coming in a number of different forms. I wonder if anybody would like to speak to that point. Sarah, then Imogen?
We're not operating hate here. It's not what we're doing. We don't. It's not us.
We don't hate trans people. The Green Women's Declaration is about women's rights. So, it's a special interest group for women within the Green Party. And within the Green Party, special interest groups work to support the interests of their members. The LGBTQIA+ Greens supports the interests of transgender members. And so, it's reasonable that the women within the Green Party women support their interests of the membership of the Green Party for women, which must be probably half the membership. There's no hate. It's not I can't see where anyone would say anything that we are bringing up is hateful. We are speaking about the interests of women and girls.
Thank you. Yeah, that seems clear. I would like now to move to another question which is coming under a number of different guises. Do you believe the Green Party is breaking equality law in the way it treats some members? Emma?
Yes, I do. But I would say that because I've got a court case. I definitely do. If you look at the legal advice that has been shared, that is available to members now, I think the legal advice makes it clear that gender critical views are lawful and respectable in a democratic society, and we have to find a way to accommodate them. You might not like those views, but you can't really stop people talking about those views. And the Green Party has tried to suggest that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But if you prevent members speaking in any way about these views, then you are breaking the law. There has to be a way that the Green Party accepts, or certain members of the Green Party accept, that this is going to be discussed. And the language that is going to be used is going to be language that everyone understands. Male, female, man, woman. These are terms that people understand and we must be clear on. So at the moment, yes, I do think the party is discriminating. And when it suspends gender critical members, 3 co-chairs of Green Party women who all happen to be gender critical have been suspended. We can see what's happening here and we need to be able to talk about it.
Thank you. Does anybody want to add to that? Or should we move on to the next question?
Well, I just wanted to highlight how you've been treated, Zoe. My feelings on this are that the Green Party is acting without a democratic mandate. You have been elected as one of the co-chairs of this group. We followed all the procedures, and to just summarily suspend you appears to me as harassment, because you hold a protected belief.
Thank you for saying that, Imogen. I think that, actually it's about all of us, and you make that point around, if I may just deviate for a second and just say you make that point around being a duly elected representative. Really, I'm just a person that's occupying a space that speaks for all of you. So an attack on me in this role is an attack on everybody who voted for me, hundreds of people that voted. So I think that is a really important issue. I would also raise the issue of victimisation, which of course is defined under the Green Party's own legal guidance as an experience where somebody is treated badly after they have raised issues of discrimination. That's their definition, and of course I raise the issues of discrimination. I've told the party that I'm going to be in contact and in conversation with the Equality and Human Rights Commission around those acts of discrimination, and then I've been put under no fault suspension. So I'm not a legal expert, but I think we do need to think about those issues, and I think a lot of us, it's pretty easy to join the dots. I'm going to move now to Zai. Zai, have you got a question for us?
Yeah, my question is, in terms of, is there anything that's clearly laid out in the Declaration that supports disabled women who need personal care, who wish to have women, and it's their own definition of women, be their personal carers? And the reason I'm asking this question is that I have seen on Twitter there have been disabled women who have openly said that they want to have women doing their personal care, and the attack on those disabled women has been quite atrocious. So that's why I'm asking this question, because it's really quite awful what is also happening to what people see in society as some of the most vulnerable people in society, because of what they want for their own, personal care. They are being attacked badly.
Yeah, thank you, Zai.
That's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. Who would like to take that first? Emma.
I totally agree with you, Zai. In a democratic society where we're supposed to care about people, we're supposed to care about the most vulnerable people in society, and you are talking here about the most vulnerable people in society, people who don't have control over who they have assisting them, is shocking. We're supposed to be concerned about not only the safety of women, but the privacy and dignity of women as well. These things are important in a sort of civilised democratic society, and the idea that you can have somebody doing your intimate personal care who you do not wish to be touching you is awful, and I think it's a disgrace. And yes, they certainly should be able to say that they want females to do that care, and it's not up to people in that vulnerable position, I don't think, to have to make that clear when they have somebody standing in front of them, because sometimes we hear, oh, if you don't want that care, if a male who identifies as trans turns up and tries to give you that intimate care and you don't want them there, just say so. Well, that's not right, because you shouldn't put people in under that sort of pressure to do that. So absolutely, females should be able to ask for female carers, and that is an absolute right. That is fundamental to me.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. I think about my mum, who doesn't like to cause a fuss for anybody, but would be absolutely mortified. She isn't somebody who's got disability, but I think that applies to her as well. But thank you, Zai. I take your point. I just want to say, I know I'm chairing this, but I find it's one of the things that I'm particularly passionate about. I had another question. Should I withhold my subscription money since I'm supporting Sharar Ali's case? The Green Party is using my money to support its case against him, which I don't agree with. Is withholding our money a possible way to resist the attacks on our freedom to hold gender-critical beliefs? I've read that question out. I think that needs to be answered very sensitively, but you may wish to share something in response.
I think that's a personal call. I mean, I don't think I'm going to advise you to go one way or the other, but I do hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that you have a dilemma, as I do.
Yeah, thank you. Emma?
Yeah, it is a personal call. I think probably for many of us, including myself, which probably sounds a bit odd, as I am taking legal action against the party for what the party is doing to me. There's a dilemma between trying to prop the party up and make it better and build it up from the inside, And then at the same time, we've got this pressure from, it doesn't seem to be changing, and trying to fix it, as many of us have been trying to do for a long time, doesn't seem to be altering things very much. So that's why people like me and Shara have gone to the courts to try and resolve this. So it is a dilemma. Even for most of us, I'm sure we're probably quite conflicted about this. I know I am, even though I am taking legal action against the party. I want the Green Party to be strong and I want the Green Party to be successful. But at the moment, unless we see that change, I don't think we're going to be. And I speak as someone who's expelled from it.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. And I think, anybody who came to the Green Party Women Extraordinary General Meeting and heard there's many statements and submissions about the way that their individuals had been discriminated against. It feels that the party is not able to, and this of course has continued over a wide range of time, it feels that the party is not able to change internally without some external assistance, whether that comes from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, whether that comes from the Green Party being involved ultimately in setting new case law with regards to gender critical views within political parties. That remains to be seen, but something it does feel needs to change. There's another question now. It's, does the declaration wish to add or consider any points around intersex individuals? Emma, thanks.
I would just say, I think sometimes people with intersex conditions or DSDs, they are a political football. They're used in this debate. It's a very separate thing from the trans issue. Being intersex, we all know, is a biological kind of condition. It's not a sexuality. It shouldn't really be in there. But I would say that for DSDs, we know that there are female people with DSDs and there are male people with DSDs. Female people with DSDs, of course, are welcome and included as females, as of course they should be. And I think it's a bit of a red herring to try and sort of use the intersex conditions within this debate, but they are most definitely females and definitely males, and it's quite depersonalising. It's quite rude to suggest that they are not. If you're a female and you have a DSD, that is something that you've got to come to terms with already, and somebody suggesting that you are less than female because of that, I think must be quite awful. So absolutely, females with intersex conditions, yes, you're there.
Can I just interject and say a DSD is a disorder of sexual development?
That's a really useful clarification. We've got another clarifying question here. Although the Green Women's Declaration is not speaking specifically about this term, a couple of people have answered this. It's quite a common question that I get asked. Is the term trans woman used for men who have undergone reassignment surgery, for men who have self-identified as female, or both?
Well, I think the understanding is within the Equality Act, a person does not need to have achieved any change to their biology, cosmetic surgery to their bodies or medical interventions in order to be considered under the protected characteristic of gender reassignment. So gender reassignment in that case would refer to fully intact men who are suggesting that sometime in the future they may well consider some intervention or other. But trans woman seems to include all men who self-identify using the terminology of gender identity theory as women.
Thanks. Emma?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think this is one of the problems, isn't it, with the fact that our language is being eroded, that there are many people who don't understand now what the different terms are relating to. And I think there was a survey a little while ago, not quite sure the figures, but said something like about a third of people asked were confused about whether a trans woman was a male or a female, and especially when they asked about transgender women, they were uncertain whether that was actually a male or a female that was being referred to. And that's why we really need to use language precisely, and why we need to use these sex terms, and always come back to the idea that males and females are a sex and you can't change your sex. And so we need to use those clear terms to stop people being confused about this stuff.
Thank you. So we're nearly at the end of our time, but I do have another question. Might well be the last question of the evening then, and it's actually going to be a couple that I'm going to combine. The Green Women's Declaration is, of course, not part of the Green Party as such, but it does welcome supporters of its aims, including Green Party members and members of Green Party women. But do you guys see the Green Women's Declaration as playing an important role in opening up space within the Green Party for debate and counteracting the no debate authoritarian stance, as this questioner puts it? I wouldn't disagree. There's no debate authoritarian stance which has been so afflicted the party and continues to damage us. So that's one part of it. Do you agree with that? And the next part would be then, what are the next steps for Green Women's Declaration? What do you guys see in order to, if you agree that Green Women's Declaration is going to be part of this change, what is that change that needs to happen and how do we get there?
Yeah, completely. I think it very much is part of how we would like to reformulate and recreate women's spaces within the Green Party. If we can get that far, that would be wonderful. The Green Women's Declaration is definitely a vehicle for that, if possible. It is a base camp. Green Women's Declaration, I see it as a line in the sand or a benchmark from which we state our intentions, we state our beliefs, and we rally round it in order to gather other women, to build our networks and create more confidence and resilience amongst women who are perhaps feeling slightly sidelined or feeling silenced. We will be louder and prouder to speak up.
Thank you, Imogen. Does anybody want to speak specifically around the policies that need to be changed or anything around that? Or are you at that stage? Have you been looking at specific policies, Sarah?
I was going to say that, in the declaration itself, we say that sex should be added to item 6 of the GPW's core values in line with the Equality Act of 2010. I think we could actually go through a lot of the documentation of the Green Party of England and Wales and do a lot of tweaking, actually, in light of the declaration and changes to be made. It's a lot of hard work to be done, and we need people to come along and help do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and somebody else is talking here about the complaint system, which exhibits blatant discrimination and the changes that need to happen there as well. I'm just reading through the chat now. I haven't got to the bottom of the chat questions. I wonder whether we can consider pulling at least some of these questions out and putting written answers on the website. There's also a mailing list. You don't have to be a signatory to join the mailing list, by the way. You can just join the mailing list, and then we can email people. When we've got those questions kind of gathered together, we can email you and alert you and let you know that those answers are up there as well. I want to speak to that idea of solidarity just before we go, and we'll draw this evening to a close, because it could have been a really hard week. It's been a weird week this week, but it could have been a really hard week for me emotionally if I hadn't had the solidarity of my sisters, of the people, of the women within the Green Women's Declaration and their allies who have given me great strength and comfort and support. And for me, they embody the real green values of having differences of opinion and being prepared to discuss openly and listen with great interest to different perspectives and for us to learn from each other. Imogen started this evening talking about this being a mistress class in feminist collaboration, and I would absolutely 100% echo that. So for me, as ever, being part of this group is an absolute gift, and everything that happens that comes along is a mere distraction by comparison to knowing you all and working with you all to further women's rights. So I'd just like to thank you very, very much for being here this evening, for speaking so eloquently about this really important issue. Thank you, everybody who has taken time out of their evening, time out of their schedule to be with us this evening. And we're going to say thank you very much and good night.